Welcome back to What You Missed, a video game news show where I discuss articles that occurred within days to a week ago that you may have missed that are important to the video game industry and possibly to you. In today's story, we're covering Metroid. Yeah, there's gonna be a Metroid on the Nintendo Switch if these rumors are to be believed. Now, I have a bit of stock in this stuff, more so than normal rumors, but recently a lot of rumors seem to be coming true. That is to say, the ones that actually make the news, because they seem very likely. So even though this website doesn't exactly explicitly say that they're working on a game, there have been several people who have covered these things, several news outlets. Boogie2988 was talking about how there are going to be 2 new Metroid games, and if there are indeed going to be 2 new Metroid games, I can assume that one will be for the Nintendo Switch and the other one will be for the 3DS line, since it seems Nintendo isn't discontinuing that line anytime soon. But to add stock to these rumors, quite a while ago I covered a story detailing how Reggie had talked about the future for Metroid and Mother 3, and he said, quote, "We hear all the commentary." He was talking about how Metroid is one of Nintendo's crown jewels, and he's committed to that franchise, and he stressed that Nintendo's primary concern is moving the franchise forward. And, well, Mother 3 is a bit different, but this is primarily focusing on a Metroid game here. So if they are indeed making 2 games, I can almost guarantee you that Retro Studios is going to be making the first-person 3D one, and the 2D one might be handled by Nintendo themselves, or just an outside firm, or Retro Studios. Now, Retro Studios are the ones who made Metroid Prime, an excellent first-person shooter. And why this is super important is because in the 2D days, we had plenty of great games that were unable to make the crossover to a 3D gaming platform in the way that Metroid did, and Mario did, and even Zelda. A lot of games ended up getting hung up on some clunky mechanics, 3D problems, things like that. If you guys want an example of how not to do a 3D game, you can look up Busby, because he had pretty decent games in the 2D days. Even if you may not have enjoyed them, they sold enough to make sequels for. So yeah, his transition into 3D didn't work. A lot of the mascot stars didn't get a 3D translation, and they didn't work out well, or they were discontinued. So comparing Castlevania, the 3D transition for Castlevania on the N64 was not pleasant. Nowadays, it's a lot better, but it's no Metroid Prime. Metroid Prime seems to have been able to bridge the gap between the Metroidvania and the 3D type of gameplay people wanted for the first-person shooter market. And that's why it's so important that Retro Studios is developing a new one. But a lot of people think that Retro Studios will be developing a new one because of things that they've said in the past recently. They said that they can't talk about the secret project and that they know fans are speculating on it. And a lot of people want information on this, but yeah. And also, if you look back through the years, there was no Metroid on the Nintendo 64, and I'm pretty sure the reason, if I recall right, was that they couldn't come up with an idea or they were too busy, things like that. But when it came out on the GameCube, it did particularly well, and the Wii version, even with motion controls, was pretty good. So, but it skipped the Wii U, that's for sure, and I'm not entirely sure why, but here we are with the Nintendo Switch. More powerful system, capable of handheld mode, seems like a match made in heaven. Take Metroid with you on the go. So hopefully we'll be seeing a new Metroid game, and yeah, that's about the only news I have. If you've never played Metroid Prime, there's no better time than now to pick it up while you can still find a Wii and a Wii U cheap enough to where you could pick up the whole set and it would be worth you getting it, play the game. Whereas in the future, it might cost you quite a bit more, as it is a pretty decent game. You can emulate it, you can play it on the original hardware, but as for Metroid Prime 3, you'll definitely need the motion controls because they rely on that quite a bit on the game. But from someone who absolutely hates motion controls, me, I'm telling you, it's not that difficult to play Metroid Prime 3 on the Wii. I would definitely have preferred it without it, but 1 and 2 are pretty good without it, and then 3 with the motion controls aren't bad. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. I thought I would give you that news because as a serious Metroid fan myself, I can't stand the fact that it hasn't had a release, at least on the 3DS. And yeah, don't tell me Federation Force is the Metroid game that fans just didn't like, okay? It's not. It's really not. It would be like if Pokemon was announcing a new Pokemon game after 4 years of development with no Pokemon games whatsoever, and they announced Mystery Dungeon, or something ridiculous that is completely not the standard Pokemon that everyone waits for. You know, something like that. And a lot of people also like to cite Other M as being the Metroid game, but fans just didn't like that. Again, I have to focus on the 2.5D aspect of that game and motion controls and just being on the Wii in general. A lot of people didn't like those type of games, man. A lot of people didn't like to be forced into using that type of controller, those type of motion controls, changing things around. A lot of people just want to grab a controller, play the game, and that's it. No gimmicks, nothing. Just play the game. As far as Federation Force goes, it's a spinoff, you know, whatever. If you hate it, you like it, it don't matter. Hopefully, in these 2 new Metroid games, we'll get a great Metroid. My wish would be to have Metroid for the NES remade completely in Metroid Prime's fashion, and Super Metroid remade both in Metroid Prime's fashion and the Game Boy Advance fashion. I think Super Metroid is the perfect 10 out of 10 platformer, Metroidvania styled game, and I think if you guys haven't played a lot of the Metroid games, you should definitely start there, along with Metroid Prime, to get a real feel for the type of games. I've been your host, Protomario. I'm signing out. What do you think about this story? Are you excited for a new Metroid, or did you never really play them and don't care for them? Thanks for watching. As always, good gaming. God bless, and I'll see you next time.